Youcat, question number 315. What is a sin in the first place? A sin is a word, deed, or intention by which man deliberately and voluntarily offends against the true order of things, as God's loving providence has arranged them. To sin means more than to violate some rules about which men have agreed. Sin turns freely and deliberately against God's love and ignores Him. Sin is ultimately love of oneself, even to contempt of God, says St. Augustine. And in the extreme case, the sinful creature says, I want to be like God. See the book of Genesis chapter 3 verse 5. Just as sin burdens me with guilt, wounds me, and by its consequences ruins me, so too it poisons and damages the world in which I live. It becomes possible to recognize sin and its seriousness by drawing near to God. Saint John Maria Vianney would say, many say, I have done too much evil. The dear Lord cannot forgive me. That is an outright blasphemy which sets a limit to God's mercy. But it has none. It is infinite. Nothing offends our dear Lord so much as to doubt His mercy. Question number 316. How can we distinguish serious sins, which is also called mortal sins, from less serious called venial sins? Serious sin destroys the divine power of love in a person's heart, without which there can be no eternal beatitude. Hence, it is also called mortal sin. Serious sin breaks with God, whereas venial sin only strains the relationship with Him. A serious sin cuts a person off from God. One requirement for such a sin is that it be opposed to an important value, for instance, directed against life or God. For example, murder, blasphemy, adultery, and so on. And that it be committed with full knowledge and full consent. Venial sin are opposed to secondary values. For example, honor, truth, property, and so on, or are committed without full knowledge of their seriousness or without full consent of the will. Such sin disrupt the relationship with God, but do not sever it. Saint Anselm of Canterbury would say, only someone who has seriously meditated on how heavy the cross is can understand how serious sin is. Again, Saint John Maria Vianney would say, I have just produced expensive ashes. I have burned a 500-franc note. Oh, that is not as bad as if I had committed a venial sin. Question number 317. How can a person be delivered from a serious sin and reunited with God? In order to heal the break with God that is caused by a serious sin, a Catholic Christian must be reconciled with God through confession. Question number 318. What are vices? Vices are negative habits that deaden and dull the conscience, incline a person to evil, and habitually prepare him for sin. Human vices are found in connection with the capital sins of pride, avarice, envy, anger, lust, gluttony, and sloth. St. Augustine would say, if there were no forgiveness of sins in the church, there would be no hope for eternal life and eternal deliverance. Let's thank God who gave His church such a great gift. Question number 319. Are we responsible for the sins of other people? No, we are not responsible for other people's sins unless we are guilty of misleading or seducing another person to sin, or of cooperating in it, of encouraging someone else to sin, or of neglecting to offer a timely warning or our help. Aristotle would say, and so both virtue and vice are in our power. For when the deed is in our power, so is the omission. And when we can say no, we can also say yes. Question number 320. Is there such a thing as structures of sin? Structures of sin exist only in a manner of speaking. A sin is always connected with an individual person who knowingly and willingly agrees to something evil. Nevertheless, there are societal situations and institutions that are so contradictory to God's commandments that we speak about structures of sin. Yet these too are the consequences of personal sins. God bless you all.